Okay, the last question before we have summing up would be, and if I might start with Michael, who's been stuck in the middle again.
I thought it was pretty interesting. Now we're into farm subsidies. Great.
We can get rid of those, too.
Right after we get rid of all those oil companies and subsidies.
As regards energy subsidies, where do you think we'll be in 10 years?
I honestly don't think that we will be in a much different situation than we are in now. And you're hearing why. You've got rural communities that have truly benefited from investments in biofuels. And as a result, you have elected representatives that are going to protect those. On the other side, with oil and gas, we've seen a tremendous increase in investment there, which has led to, I was at an event last week where the representative of the World Energy Council was there saying that hydraulic fracturing and shale gas has led directly to $50 billion in investment moving out of Europe and into this country. So, whereas there are a lot of things that could be made better, when you look at what has happened over the last couple of years in terms of policy, I think what people should be looking at is we'd be happy if it just didn't get worse. And some kind of simplification is possible, but you have to have the right mix of people on Ways and Means and finance, and then you have to have an administration that is at least somewhat understanding of how the legislative process works. There was one time period where things actually went really well for the Obama administration. It was that little time period right after the losses in the elections in 2010, where they put an old Senate rat as chief of staff for a little while, and they figured out how to weigh the political values of different things to make some progress. I don't think 10 years from now we're going to be in a lot different situation with respect to the way our subsidies are placed. But I do think the way in which we deploy them will be changed, because I think they're going to go back to more evaluation on what we're getting from them, because the market and our ability to spend money is going to be diminished. So they're going to have to look at this more carefully.
I'm a little bit more optimistic than that. You know, I think that over the last 4 years, you can roughly $30 to $40 billion in subsidies from just the DOE have gone into renewables. But at the same time, oil and gas production increased 10 times faster than solar and wind production. Now, I don't think they're getting 10 times more, or I mean, I'm not sure that the oil and gas industry is doing that because of the relative imbalance in subsidies that some perceive them to be getting. I think it's a consequence of technology. I think it's a consequence of the resource base that we have here in this country. And I think that those things are going to win out ultimately over the long haul. And you cannot replace 82% of our energy use, consumption, from 3 sources with the rest of them in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years. So at the end of the day, I think that a lot of these arguments are going to get stale, and I think a lot of people are going to recognize that we've hit the wall with respect to our ability to just spend money here in this town. And I think that eventually this stuff will become low-hanging fruit, and we will get to more of an equalization or a true sort of marketplace, hopefully, for energy.
Yeah, I think I generally agree with that too. I think Americans have had their fill of cylinders, you know, and I just think people look at what's happened to the battery companies and the solar companies and so many of these companies that looked really promising 5 or 10 years ago and just haven't really panned out. And so, you know, I'm kind of hopeful. That's why I'm glad in this review I wanted to participate in this, because we've got to get together and figure out where the subsidies are. I don't know if we've resolved this issue today, but, you know, we have to figure out, okay, where are the subsidies in oil and gas? Where are they in coal? Where are they in, you know, wind, solar, and try to get rid of as many of them as we can. It's pro-consumer and it's pro-economic growth.
As an ethanol lobbyist and a lifelong Red Sox fan, I am by nature
the
most optimistic here, and I'm growing in optimism listening to Steve Moore talk about wanting to look at and identify the subsidies for oil and gas, because we have to do that. And the reason I'm the most optimistic is I think Congress is ready to do that. The consumers across the country don't frankly believe that ExxonMobil or ConocoPhillips needs to be subsidized to drill in the Gulf or to extract in North Dakota. I think we need to make sure that we level the playing field, but I also think we have to recognize that we've been dealing with an unlevel playing field and subsidies for 100 years for oil and gas, and we need to make sure that there are opportunities to diversify our energy supplies.
Bob, you know, we haven't even mentioned, we've talked about subsidies during this whole panel, but it is important to point out that the oil and gas industry pays more federal income tax and more taxes than any other industry in America. So to the extent there are subsidies, yeah, let's get rid of them. But let's not pretend this is an undertaxed industry. I mean, this is an industry that pays billions, if not tens of billions of dollars of taxes every year.
I'm going to have to ask you
to
leave it there.
Made a lot of money.
Sorry. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is to each panelist to sum up with just 1 minute. So if you want to...
Having learned that Bob's a Red Sox fan, I don't think we're getting anywhere because I'm a Yankees fan.
Well, perhaps
So,
if you want to sort of keep
I will say this. I welcome this and I welcome more of this because I think a lot of times we talk past each other. And we probably did a lot of that here today too, but at least we can get a conversation started on these issues because they're too important for our future, our economy, and for families out there who are struggling to and spend more and more of their income on energy. And so we need to get this right, and in my view, of course, is in order to do that, we need to get the federal government out of this business and wind it down as quickly as we can.
Look, I'm incredibly optimistic about our energy future. It's never looked brighter, and we have so much oil and gas and coal now. Bob, they may not be renewable, but they're for all sense and purposes infinite resources. We have hundreds of years worth of this stuff, and so I think this is going to be the industry that is going to just push new frontiers. We're going to see hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of new jobs as a result of this energy revolution going on in the country, and it makes you feel very good about America.
I agree. But we're in a really unique spot right now in terms of what we're able to produce. One thing we didn't talk much about today was nuclear and the potential for small modular nuclear reactors, the ability to gain scale and actually make them more economic and the environmental benefits that could come from that. We're in the early stages of researching that to see if it can work. But that's what we need to do with our federal resources, is research things to see if they can work. See if they can actually benefit the consumer, see if they can benefit our manufacturing base, because those are the technologies and those are the sources of energy that we need to support because it makes us competitive. So I think that discussions like this are useful. I think it would be much better if you could get some policymakers to actually pass something like the QFR, where they're going to come through and come up with an actual energy plan for this country that lays things out strategically so that we're looking at our manufacturing base and investing in research in a smart way for the future. But I am skeptical of our ability to unwind some of these things. I think we might be able to pick at it at the edges, but just to unwind it completely is going to be extraordinarily difficult, and in terms of tax policy, incredibly rare.
I was feeling really good until Mikey reminded us of the dysfunction that is the United States Congress, because I do think this discussion has been useful, and I think we do need to continue it. I do believe that we need to look at energy subsidies and clear the deck. I do think we need to, though, recognize that the oil and gas industry has benefited from 100 years of these incentives. And leveling the playing field has to recognize that giving incentives to new technologies and new energy resources to make up for some of that is going to be useful for a short period of time. The ethanol incentive is an example of a subsidy that worked, that was in place and then stopped and is no longer in place. It did its job. We need to make sure that all of those fossil fuels subsidies also come to an end.
Well, thank you very much to my 4 panelists. I hope we all enjoyed that. It'd be good to show it with a round of applause. If you know somebody who you know would have liked to watch this, or you just are particularly into energy debates, this will be archived on National Review Online. So just head over there and have a look. But thank you very much. There are refreshments to my left, your right, so get stuck in.